2 months. That's all that was left before our wedding. The invitations were printed, the venue booked, the dress chosen. Every night, she'd scroll through decor ideas and send me pictures of centerpieces and flower arches. We were supposed to be happy, excited, even. But lately, something had changed in her eyes. It started subtly. The way her phone was always flipped screen down. How she'd laugh at texts and quickly swipe them away. How she'd say, "It's just work stuff, babe," with that forced smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I told myself it was just nerves. Cold feet. Everyone gets them before a wedding, right? Then one Friday night, after dinner, she said she needed to talk. That sentence, "we need to talk," can drain the color from any man's face. I remember her sitting across from me at the table, twisting her engagement ring around her finger. Her voice trembled a little when she said, "I think I need a break." At first, I laughed, thinking it was some kind of joke. A break? From what? We're getting married in 8 weeks. She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I feel lost. I need time to figure things out. I need space. And then she said it, the part that hit like a knife under the ribs. I ran into David the other day. My ex talking to him made me realize I never really got closure. I just need to see where my feelings stand before I marry you. I don't remember much after that. Just a ringing in my ears. She was crying. Saying she didn't want to hurt me. That she still loved me, but needed to be sure. She promised it wouldn't take long, just a week or two, to clear her head. I sat there in silence, staring at the candle burning between us, watching the wax drip and harden. Every second that passed felt heavier. When she finally stopped talking, I nodded. "Okay," I said. "Take all the time you need." That surprised her. She probably expected me to beg, to argue, to fight for her. But I didn't. I couldn't. Something inside me had already started shutting down. That night, I slept in the guest room. I could hear her crying through the wall, whispering my name. But I didn't go to her. The warmth, the tenderness, all of it had evaporated the moment she mentioned another man's name. The next morning, she packed a small bag. She hugged me before she left. I didn't hug her back. She said she'd call in a few days. I said nothing. When the door closed, the silence was deafening. The first few days were strange. The house felt too big, too quiet. Her perfume still hung in the air. Her toothbrush sat next to mine, mocking me. Friends texted, asking about wedding plans. I said everything was fine. I wasn't ready to tell anyone that the woman I was supposed to marry wanted to explore her feelings for another man. On the third night, I made the mistake of checking her social media. A photo of a familiar skyline, the city where her ex lived. No caption, no tags. Just that view. My heart sank. I could have called. Could have confronted her. But I didn't. Instead, I poured a drink, sat on the floor of the empty living room, and looked around at all the things we'd built together. The furniture we picked. The pictures on the walls. Every memory now felt poisoned. That's when something in me hardened. I realized she wasn't confused. She wasn't lost. She just wanted permission to betray me without guilt, a moral hall pass to test the waters with her past. And I decided I wasn't going to wait around to be someone's backup plan. Over the next few days, I made quiet moves. Called a realtor friend. Asked how quickly a house could be listed and sold. Closed my joint account. Transferred my savings. Started deleting social media, one platform at a time. Every step felt like removing a thread that tied me to a life that no longer existed. By the end of the week, I'd made my decision. I was going to disappear. No confrontation, no revenge drama, just silence. Let her return to an empty home and the echo of her own choices. Before leaving, I wrote a note and placed it on the kitchen table beside her favorite mug. It said only, "Take all the space you need. You'll find everything you were looking for, once I'm gone." I left her engagement ring next to it. Then I packed my car, took one last look at the house, and drove away without checking the mirrors. As I crossed the city limits, I felt something break loose inside me, the last strand of pain snapping into peace. I didn't know where I was going yet. But I knew exactly what I was leaving behind. People think revenge means anger, yelling, smashing things, sending bitter texts. Mine was the opposite. It was quiet. Methodical. Cold. Because when you've been blindsided by the person you trusted most, rage burns out fast. What's left is clarity, a kind that cuts sharper than hate ever could. The day she left, I stopped being her fiancé. By the end of that week, I'd stopped being her anything. I didn't tell my parents. Didn't tell friends. I didn't want advice, pity, or explanations. I wanted silence, the kind you can build a new life in. So I started erasing the old one. I called the realtor first. We bought the house together a year ago, a little two-story with white shutters and a porch swing she loved. She used to say she wanted to raise our kids there. I guess her ex had other plans. When the realtor asked why I wanted to sell, I said, change of plans. That was all. Then I spent a night going through every drawer, every shelf, sorting our things. Her clothes went into boxes. Her photos into a single folder labeled return. The engagement photos, the ones where we looked deliriously happy, I left untouched. She could keep those illusions. As I packed, I found her list of wedding vows, written on a piece of stationery with tiny hearts in the corner. The first line said, "You are my safe place." I folded it neatly and placed it on top of the ring box she'd left behind. For the first time in years, I started sleeping with my phone on silent. No notifications. No desperate, "Are you okay?" calls from her. If she wanted space, she was going to get all the space in the world. By the 5th day, I deleted my social media. Gone. My digital ghost began fading. But here's the thing about disappearing, it's not instant. It's a process. You remove one piece of yourself at a time. You cut ties, change addresses, and make peace with the idea that no one owes you closure. That part was hard. Because deep down, a small, foolish part of me still hoped she'd come back, not because I wanted her, but because I wanted to hear her say she realized what she'd done. But that moment never came. Instead, a week later, her best friend texted me. "She's in Denver. With David. I thought you should know." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Her friend's message wasn't news, it was confirmation. That night, I poured a drink, turned off the lights, and sat by the window. The moonlight fell across the empty couch where she used to curl up. For the first time, I felt nothing. No anger, no grief. Just relief. So I kept moving forward. I sold the house faster than expected, cash buyer. Closed my joint account. Cancelled the wedding venue. Donated my suit. Every step made me lighter. The last thing I did was pack a small duffel bag, a few clothes, some cash, my passport. I left behind everything that tied me to her. When I walked through that front door one final time, I looked around the living room. The faint outline of where her wall art had hung was still visible, a reminder of what used to fill that space. On the table, I placed her ring box and my note. "Take all the space you need." Then I turned off the lights and closed the door. I drove through the night, no destination in mind, just the highway stretching ahead. By morning, I'd crossed state lines. Pulled into a diner off the interstate, ordered black coffee, and watched the sunrise paint the sky gold. For the first time in months, the world looked beautiful again. I got a temporary rental, a job at a construction firm, something physical, something that left no room for overthinking. Each day ended with the kind of exhaustion that quiets your mind. No one there knew my story. No one asked. And that anonymity, that clean slate, felt better than any apology could. Weeks turned into months. I grew a beard. Changed my number. Bought a used truck. Bit by bit, I built a version of myself that didn't need her, or the future we planned. Sometimes, though, at night, I'd imagine her walking into that empty house, finding the note, the ring, the silence. I pictured the shock, the confusion. Maybe even regret. I wasn't sure which version of her I missed more, the woman I fell for, or the one I thought she was. Either way, they were both gone. Revenge, people think, is about payback. But mine wasn't about hurting her. It was about removing myself from her world so completely that she'd have to live with the echo of my absence. And that silence, that quiet nothingness, would speak louder than any words ever could. I didn't realize it then, but the best thing I ever did for myself wasn't loving her, forgiving her, or even leaving her. It was learning that closure doesn't come from someone else's apology. It comes from deciding you've had enough, standing up, and walking away, without slamming the door. Disappearing isn't as simple as turning off your phone. It's an art. A discipline. A slow erasure of the person you once were, until even you stop recognizing yourself. When I left that morning, I didn't look back. The house was gone, the ring was gone, and so was the man who used to wait by the phone for her messages. All that remained was a quiet version of me. Someone who wasn't angry anymore, just done. The first few weeks were the hardest. Not because I missed her, but because I had to learn how to exist without the noise of her in my head. Every morning used to start with her voice. Every evening used to end with her plans, her moods, her small dramas. Now, it was just silence and the sound of tires on long roads. I drove until the road sign stopped feeling familiar. Eventually, I found a small town by a lake, quiet, nothing special. I rented a small cabin with peeling paint and a porch that creaked when you stepped on it. Perfect. Nobody there knew my name. I liked it that way. I got a job at a construction site. The pay was modest, but the work was simple: bricks, wood, sweat. No thinking, no explaining. At night, I'd sit on the porch, drink black coffee, and watch the lake reflect the moonlight. There was peace in routine. Peace in anonymity. Peace in finally being invisible. About 2 months later, her friend, the same one who'd texted me about Denver, somehow found my email. She wrote. She came back. She's a mess. She's been trying to find you. What do you want me to tell her? I didn't answer. Because there's nothing to say to someone who traded loyalty for nostalgia. Her break had lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks with her ex. Apparently, he left again, said he didn't feel the same way anymore. And when she came crawling back to the life she'd thrown away, she found a stranger's name on the mailbox and an empty space where I used to be. She must have realized then, I wasn't waiting for her. No one was. Some nights, I'd imagine her walking through that empty house. Finding my note. Reading the single sentence I'd left, take all the space you need. I wondered what she felt, anger? Shock? Regret? Maybe all three. But none of it mattered anymore. Because by then, I'd already learned something she never understood. When you give someone the freedom they ask for, they often discover what they truly lost. Months passed. My hair grew longer, my hands rougher. Life became smaller, simpler. I stopped checking emails, stopped thinking in timelines. No more wedding countdowns. No more, someday. I even started writing again, short journal entries at night, just for myself. I wrote about the quiet, the stars, the sound of rain on the tin roof. And the strange peace of knowing no one was expecting you to text back. I wasn't bitter anymore. I didn't wish her pain. But I did hope she'd think of me every time she looked at her ring finger and felt nothing there. 6 months later, I ran into someone at the local grocery store, an old man with a thick accent and kind eyes. He asked if I could help fix the roof on his bait shop. I said yes. That small favor turned into a steady gig. He paid me in cash and conversation. He told me stories about fishing, about his late wife, about how peace isn't about forgetting your past, it's about no longer needing to relive it. I didn't tell him my story, but I think he saw it in my eyes anyway. One night, as I was closing up, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was her voice. Shaky, quiet, almost unfamiliar. "Is this still your number?" she asked. I didn't respond. She continued, "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. You didn't deserve that." I stayed silent. She went on. "I thought I needed closure. But what I really needed was you. I can't sleep knowing I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me." The line was trembling. Maybe she was crying. I looked out at the lake, the moon reflected on the water, calm, unbothered. "Finally," I said, "I hope you find peace someday." Then I hung up. And this time, I didn't feel a single ounce of pain. That night, I deleted her number for good. I sat by the water until sunrise, feeling the world move quietly around me. That was the moment I realized, I didn't disappear to punish her. I disappeared to find myself. And I did. In the stillness. In the distance. In the freedom of no longer being someone's option. A full year passed before I heard from her again. By then, I had stopped counting days, stopped wondering what she was doing, or whether she ever regretted anything. Peace has a way of making you forget the noise that once defined your life. I was living simply, working, sleeping, cooking for one, and spending evenings by the lake. The kind of life most people would call lonely, but I'd learned there's a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is missing someone who doesn't miss you. Solitude is realizing you don't need them anymore. The letter came one afternoon. No return address, just my name, written in handwriting I'd once known better than my own. I almost threw it away. Almost. But curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The ink was smudged, probably from tears. It read, "I've been trying to find you for months. I don't expect forgiveness, I just need you to know that I ruined everything. David was a mistake. I thought I needed closure, but what I really needed was the peace you gave me. I took it for granted. I came back to our house the day after you left. The realtor told me it was sold. When I saw the note you left, I broke down right there in the kitchen. I still have it. I read it every night. You were right, I needed space. But now that I have it, I can't fill it. I hope you're happy. I really do. You deserve that much." I read it twice, maybe 3 times. There were no excuses, no manipulations. Just guilt. The kind that eats a person from the inside out. I folded the letter and put it away, not out of spite, but because I realized it no longer meant anything. I didn't need her sorrow. I didn't need her closure. I'd already closed that door, quietly, a long time ago. That evening, I walked down to the lake. The air was crisp, the sky painted in deep orange and violet. I sat on the pier, legs hanging over the edge, and thought about how strange life can be, How someone can break you so completely that you think you'll never recover, and then one day, you look in the mirror and realize you're stronger than you've ever been. Not because they came back, but because you never did. Sometimes, people think forgiveness means letting them back in. It doesn't. Forgiveness is when you stop wishing they'd pay for what they did. It's when their name stops tightening your chest. It's when you can remember the story without reopening the wound. And that's exactly what I felt sitting there, not anger, not love, just gratitude. Gratitude that she showed me what I would never tolerate again. Gratitude that I learned what peace really feels like. I never replied to her letter. There was nothing left to say. Because some stories don't need an ending, they just need distance. Months later, I heard from a mutual friend that she'd moved away, started over. I wished her well in silence. Not out of weakness, but because peace doesn't demand witnesses. I wasn't her unfinished chapter anymore. I was the lesson she had to live with. Sometimes, when I tell people my story, they ask if I ever loved her. I smile and say, of course I did. But love isn't always the same thing as forever. Some people come into your life to teach you what love shouldn't feel like. Others remind you that walking away isn't losing, it's reclaiming your dignity. Now, when I drive past wedding venues or hear couples arguing in restaurants, I don't feel bitterness. I feel calm. Because I know what it costs to ignore the red flags, to hold on when someone's already halfway out the door. Love is supposed to make you feel safe. Not like you're standing on the edge, waiting to be chosen again. That night, before heading to bed, I burned her letter. Watched the paper curl and blacken in the fire. It wasn't symbolic. It was just time. The smoke drifted up and out into the night sky, disappearing among the stars. And for the first time, I smiled. Not because I won, but because I was finally free. Epilogue, the real ending. It's been 2 years now. I still live by the lake. I still work with my hands. And every morning, when I step outside and feel the sun hit my face, I think about how much life can change when you stop chasing the people who never deserved your loyalty. I used to think her break broke me. But it didn't. It built me. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's showing the world, and yourself, that you were always enough, even after they walked away.